What is going on, Millennial Morticians? Happy Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of this incredible podcast. The title for today's episode is called Stop Procrastinating. Stop Procrastinating. I thought about this episode due to some personal experiences that I've had recently throughout my time in the mortuary field and going through mortuary school. A lot of people don't understand mortuary school can be very challenging. It can be very rigorous. It can be very stressful. And in the beginning, you're excited, you're motivated, you're pushing through your classes, you're doing what you have to do to get through the program and to be successful in the field. And you have times where you just you just don't feel like studying or reading material or reviewing material. If you're like me, you were already employed in a funeral home, working there currently, and you just have so much going on, and you might miss a few steps here and there, but you're trying to graduate and get that mortuary degree, so you can take that national and that state board exam, which are so super important to your future and your accreditation in the field altogether. And so I've been doing that. And along the way, I got through all my classes. I had some hiccups in one of the hardest courses. And I think, honestly, in any mortuary program, is the embalming one course. It has been a tough challenge. And so what I decided to do was, I was like, you know what? This part of the program is extremely difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my major from, funeral directing and embalming to just funeral directing and not take the theory of embalming one course because I felt like it was just too difficult. It was really, really hard. You have to study and read a lot of materials. It's a lot of minute points, learning about the different fluids. And I try to tell people to understand actually doing the embalming part is not hard. It is just learning it, the book work of it that's totally different. Some of this stuff you may even never use in the actual day-to-day at a funeral home while you're embalming. So I went through that process. I ended up failing the class at the end. And I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. This is really hard. I don't think I can do it. And I started to procrastinate and say, you know what? I'll just take in my case, the quote unquote easy route and just become a funeral director and go that route. And then I was like, no, I don't need to do that. I need to just continue with the program, even though it's really hard and strenuous, and keep trying until I get it because I know I can do it and I believe in myself. But my procrastination almost made me not want to continue that part of the program. Now I'm still currently in the program getting the embalming and funeral directing. So it is possible. I only have 4 classes left until I graduate mortuary school. The 2 embalmings, the review, and the lab. And I'm out of there. But it's just an example to show you have to stop procrastinating. There's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that's too impossible, that's too hard for you. You just have to put in the work, the time, and the commitment. Stay dedicated and focused in whatever you're doing in life. And don't let the challenge of whatever you're in make you feel like you're not capable of doing it. Because I know when I was in it, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I sign myself up for? I didn't feel capable. And I was just in the middle. When you're in the middle like that, and part of you just telling you just take the easy way out, and a part of you is like, well, this is your lifelong dream, this is your calling, and if it was so easy, everybody would just be out here calling themselves morticians and funeral directors. And so you should be proud of the fact that this program is offering you some challenging areas to help you be a better individual altogether. And so I stuck it out. I'm going to retake the class. I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to get it this time. And I'm going to pass, and I'm going to complete the program. And there's so many areas in learning about the funeral business where you'll feel like you just don't know. You're like on the fence. You're procrastinating. You're like, I don't know if I can learn this and remember this and this, because I've had to learn about the funeral business. I don't know if you guys realize it or not. There's a lot of minute details about what we do in this industry and in this business, and you have to be detail-oriented person. I mean, everything you do is super important, and you can't afford to make any mistakes because the state board or somebody who's the EPA, anybody, OSHA could come in the funeral home at any time and just audit you and do a review, and you have to be on your game, your A game. You have to make sure everything is by the book. I'm very by the book, very technical, making sure everything's up to date, making sure you renew your license on time so you don't have to retake that test. Because I know a few people who've told me if they had to retake that test, they don't think they would get the same result they did the first time. So just doing the things that you have to do to put yourself in a predicament where you don't feel like you have to make a choice that's not necessarily best for you, but since you're under the pressure in the moment, you feel like that's what you have to do. And so I want my audience, I want you guys, my millennial morticians out there, to feel like you have options and choices because you live in a world where now you do. You have more options, more choices than ever before, than what was ever offered in the world before. And so doing that and having that as an asset to you, it's a resource, and we have to best equip ourselves to make the best decisions for ourselves. And I feel like a lot of times in our generation, in our with our group, is that we oftentimes think taking the easy way out is what's best for us because there's no challenge. It's like, okay, I can do it. I'm going to do it. But sometimes it's better, and oftentimes it's more rewarding to go to what's the most challenging for you, because challenges make you stronger, they make you better, they make you wiser, and there's so much wisdom to go around in this business for you to learn about and people for you to interact with and meet. And people like people who are wise and have knowledge in things. And what I realized is, okay, if I go to school and I do these incredible things and I graduate, I'll be able to have more choices and more options at the funeral home because I'll be able to say, hey, look, I have a license in funeral directing and embalming. I can do both. I can do anything. Whatever you need, I'm available to offer my services in the funeral home to the best of my knowledge. If I have any questions, I'll ask. And I've been getting better on myself about asking questions because there's no dumb question. There's no wrong question. There's a lot of things about this business you question respectfully. And there's some parts in this business that I had to understand that I found out very early on I was blessed with, is that some things have already been figured out for you. So don't make them more challenging than they need to be. Some things have already been predetermined, figured out. Somebody way smarter than me and you has already solved the problem. Now, where we come in is I find that those solved problems can be enhanced. So you take whatever problem that you think is still a problem, and you say, "Hey, I like what they did here. I like the foundation they laid out, the research they did. Let me make that even better." And that's where we come in as an audience of millennial morticians. We take what's already out there and we make it better. We say, hey, can you fix this? Can you upgrade this? Can you make this more detail oriented? Can you make this more for us? And so it's our job. It's our responsibility to improve our industry and to build on it rapidly. I think what you guys will see at NFDA this year in New Orleans, and I will be there, is you're going to see rapid evolution from what you saw in Las Vegas, just because people aren't procrastinating anymore. And there was people probably at the convention that saw something and that somebody else that came out with things like, I think I can make that even better. So just breaking through that barrier of or that stigma of waiting and being left behind, because we live in an era now, we live in a time now where you don't have to wait, you don't have to be left behind. Everybody can benefit from it. There's so many breakouts of incredible things happening in our world, in our country, and this funeral business, it's not going anywhere. And you get to be a part of that incredible breakout. And we're going to break the stigma on procrastination. You don't have to procrastinate. I'm going to energize you every week. I'm going to give you the strength that I have, the wisdom that I have, the knowledge that I have. We're going to keep inviting some incredible guests, and we're going to build up this audience to be something bigger than what I can even imagine for myself, and bigger than what you can imagine as a viewer. And so just breaking those barriers, it's so important. And let me remind you guys something. There's nothing wrong with being the first person to do something great. I feel like we always like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll let somebody else come behind me and do it. Here, I encourage you, be the first to do something incredible, to do something game changing. If people don't believe in you, people say, hey, I don't really think you can do it. Because sometimes people can pass their own procrastination and judgments onto you. We're going to ignore that. We're going to say, no, I can do it. I'm capable. I'm strong enough. I'm wise enough. And if I have any questions, I'm going to ask somebody who is better than. Funeral home owners, people who are in the industry, who've been in the industry 20 plus years. Listen, there's nothing wrong with hiring somebody that's smarter than you. When I opened my funeral home and I had plans to grow and expand, There is absolutely nothing wrong with having a team of people, of young people, of diverse groups of people who can break barriers in ways that your mind can't even comprehend to do. So having that group of people, that wisdom in the building, watch and see the difference that's going to make in the next 10 to 20 years. You're going to be way, way, way ahead of the game, and people are going to want to work for you. Well, Millennial Morticians, that is all the time we have for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe on all platforms. I look forward to talking to you guys next week. And remember, this is the podcast that engraves. You guys have a blessed week. Enjoy the rest of the summer. It's ending kind of